On the sidelines again last night. So, Ramona, I think the MVP talk for Chris Paul needs to get a little louder, okay? Is he in the conversation for you?
Oh, he's definitely in the conversation, but look, this thing about Chris's secret stuff, like, you labeled it Chris's secret stuff? I mean, come on. What Chris has done is he went vegan last year and went to a plant-based diet. He is in incredible shape right now. He's turning back the hands of time. So, okay, there might be something in that juice, but,
Shout out to our guys, David Alexander, the trainer. There you go. And Donnie Ramon and all them. Welcome into The Jump. I'm George Sedano, in for our fearless leader, Rachel Nichols. Today, I'm joined by our senior writer, Ramona Shelburne, right here. And, of course, NBA reporter, Malika Andrews. So, coming up, Draymond Green's tweets on women receiving equal pay in sports drew some criticism from Megan Rapinoe. We've got Draymond's response. You're going to want to hear that. We'll react to that. But first, Paul George is, on a tear right now. And he's also one of the most polarizing players in the NBA. The seven-time All-Star is also one of the league's most talented players. He showed that once again last night, scoring a game-high 33 points against the Suns in a battle of Western Conference elites. After the game, he mentioned how the Suns were trash-talking all game. Let's take a listen to PG.
We focused on us. I don't know what that chirp is about. We focus on us. I don't care what they're doing over there. I don't care who they are, what they're doing. I'm locked in. They can do the chirping. I let them have it tonight. I just stayed in my zone, stayed in my place. I don't know. But again, I don't care what they're doing. We're focused on us over here. We're focused on getting better. Tonight was a fun matchup, and we appreciate the challenge.
Here's how PG is performing against the Suns this season. 36 points per game on, get this, 63% from the field, 74 from three, and 100 from the line. Those are incredible splits. Ramona, if that doesn't get the chirp and the stop, then what the heck will it take?
Oh, it's never going to stop. Because the reason they're chirping at him, the reason they're trying to get under his skin is because there has been evidence that it has worked sometimes, right? So the only way to stop that is to just play through it. And Paul knows his rep in the league now. He knows what teams are trying to do to him. But by the way, any team with Chris Paul on it, that's kind of like in their DNA.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
For
Chris
sure.
Paul the other day, right, in the overtime game, right, he was trying to high five Donovan Mitchell.
Yep.
But this is what Paul George does. I mean, they're going to keep doing this to you, Paul, until you win. And the only way you can shut them up is just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep, that is absolutely right. That's the only time that this is going to stop is when they win a ring. And that's probably how it should be, right? Because when you look at what happened with the Clippers last year, they fell short of a lot of people's, including their own expectations. When something like that happens, plus what Ramona mentioned, that combined history of perhaps being able to have that work a little bit, it's not going to stop. And also, why should it stop? We want to see this. This is what NBA fans want to see. They want a little bit of back and forth. It's entertaining. It's fun, but that's exactly what Paul George should be saying. I'm going to let them do the chirping because they still, as amazing as those numbers are, I believe the Clippers know that they still have something to prove after what happened last year. So you're not going to see them being out there, being the person who's hitting first, right? They are going to be focusing in on what they need to do because they remember, they know what happened.
You know what's fascinating to me is, and Ramona, you probably were there too, but I remember covering those LeBron Wade Bosch teams. And they played the Pacers 3 times, okay? Once in the conference semis, twice in the conference finals. And Paul George was their best player. And we looked at him and said, my God, this kid is going to be incredible. He has the tragic injury. He comes back from the injury. And look, it took him a little bit. He has built his game back up. Like, his game is still incredible, especially when you consider the type of injury he's dealt with. I understand the playoff part of this, but I feel like he is this close to just breaking through. If he just can have those playoff performances that we saw 7 or 8 years ago, Ramona, I think that all this stuff will be dispelled.
Well, here's the thing about Paul. He's playing with an injured toe right now. And the only way that toe is going to get better is to rest. But they can't rest. And so he's out there playing night in and night out. And I think now they have one of the easiest schedules going forward in this last 20-something games of the year. So he may take a few games here to rest that toe as much as he can just to be ready for the playoffs. But he's been great. And the only way you clap back at people who are trying to get under your skin is to just go out and play. I don't even like that he acknowledged that they were chirping. I know that was the question that was asked of him, and so he gave it an expansive answer. But to me, Paul George, like, just ignore it. Don't even make it a thing. Like, the idea that we're even talking about it means it's a thing.
Well, but don't you think, and I'll ask you, Malika, don't you think that stuff can fuel someone? Like, everyone's made up differently mentally. Maybe that's what he needs.
Sure, maybe. I mean, it's easy to get emotional when someone is bringing their emotions at you. I believe, he answered the question that he was asked, like Ramona said, but focusing on what they need to do, as I'm in New York City, so everything's loud, but focusing on what they need to do, that's exactly what they should be doing right now, because I know we don't want to overplay what happened in the playoffs last year. A lot of first-year teams, just based on the fact that they don't have expansive history together, fall short of their ultimate goal of winning the title. But Paul George came out and said a lot of that was on me. I wasn't quite right. I got to where I needed to be mentally. So if this is working for him right now, keep going, because clearly something's going right if he can continue to shoot and play the way that he has been, George.
Malika, keep going. Don't worry about the sound outside your window. It's okay. It's 2021. We all know what's going on. All right, let's get to
We're rolling with it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to Draymond Green, who has been the subject of controversy after his Twitter thread. That wasn't actually a Twitter thread from March 27th, which in part, he blamed the women for making quote-unquote complaints rather than taking action over disparities in pay and investment in women's sports. Those comments drew the attention from the soccer world, where U.S. women's national team star Megan Rapinoe said that Draymond, quote, showed his whole ass in not even understanding the struggles of equal pay for women, and that it was unfortunate that an athlete in Green's position didn't have a more informed opinion. Green responded to Rapinoe and others yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I saw what Megan Rapinoe said, and she said it's unfortunate of his view, that's his view. And, I think it's unfortunate that she thinks it's unfortunate that that's my view, because at the end of the day, what Megan wants and what I want is the same thing. If we can both do something to move the needle to get to the end goal, great. I have no complaints with whatever it is that she wants to do, or any woman athlete wants to do, or anyone that's trying to help drive their cause and what they want to be done. It doesn't really matter to me how you get there. What does matter to me is that we get there. And so, I'm not going to sit here and condemn her comments back to me or what she's done. I'm in full support of what she's doing.
Malika, what's your reaction?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to pretend that I know Draymond incredibly well, but in the conversations that we have had, I believe that he genuinely wants to see change. I think he is coming from a good place. He just said that at the end of the day, he and Megan Rapinoe want the same thing. But inherently, the problem here, George, is that we're sitting up here talking about Megan Rapinoe versus Draymond Green, and that's taking away from what we should be talking about, which is equal pay. Here's the thing. This cannot be done. It is not on the oppressed to fix oppression. It has to be done with allyship, which is where someone like Draymond Green, a man, comes into a space that affects predominantly women. But the thing about being an ally is when you come into that space, you should be listening first, not talking first, because there is no one who understands better what these women are going through than these women. If you come into this space and say, okay, I'm going to listen, I'm going to take this feedback of what you've been living and what you've been experiencing, and then I'm going to then talk and then offer my ideas, perhaps even away from Twitter, because then it comes off like you're talking at somebody who's been going through something that's incredibly difficult for years and years and years, then maybe we can get to the point where women aren't making 80 cents to every dollar that a man makes. And by the way, that's white women. But we need to be listening first if you're coming into a space as an ally. We shouldn't even be talking about Draymond Green. The fact that we are, that's a distraction from what Megan Rapinoe is saying.
So, Malika, you and I have had many conversations about this in the past, or through text, whatever. Sometimes when you tweet something, you get so many reactions right away. And initially you think, did you even take the time to read the story? Or did you just see the tweet or the headline? Okay? And when I saw Draymond's tweets, I actually believe that he is on Rapinoe's side. I do think he wants to. I think his heart's in the right place. But I feel like he was watching the NCAA tournament. he had a gut level reaction, and instead of just catching up, he reacted.
Right.
And started tweeting, which is what people do on Twitter. Okay,
Yeah.
this is what they do on social media. Now, LeBron James is really good at getting asked a question. He says, "You know what? I'm going to take some time and study that before I give you an answer.
Right.
I want to dig in and know what I'm talking about before I start
Sure.
popping up." It's good to be able to give hot takes. It's good to wade into things. I'm glad that he cares. But as somebody who has written a lot about women's
me
sports
too.
in the past, and I can name some of
Right.
them.
And you played Division
Okay,
One.
played Division One
sports.
softball, but
Yeah.
look, I write a lot about the WNBA.
Right.
I've written about the Sparks my entire career that I've been in Los
Right.
Angeles. There's a lady named Michelle Vogel. She's incredible. She's been writing about women's basketball for ESPN for decades. She's great. Holly Rowe, did you hear that report she gave on Nadia Barnes having to go in there at halftime?
So
She's the
good.
coach at Arizona, pump breast milk for her infant child, and then
Right.
go back out and coach in the national championship game. That's the kind of story that draws people into women's sports, and they are out there. Draymond just hasn't seen them. He hasn't gone looking for them. And I think that is what Megan and all the women athletes who have reacted to this have essentially said, which is, hey, these stories are out there. You just haven't been reading them. Go read them and then come talk to us.
I couldn't have said any of that better than you guys, obviously. But what I would say to you guys is this, and you guys both alluded to this about Twitter specifically. Herm Edwards worked at this network for a long time, okay? And he had one thing always to say. Don't press send, okay? Think about what you're going to write before you put it out there, right? And I think that you guys both
Yeah,
alluded to
amen.
that. And Herm, Herm, if you're watching, I still live by it, okay? I still live by it. I don't press send because
Take a breath.
you gotta know what you're talking about, because if not, you're going to get the response that you got if you're Draymond Green. I do think Draymond Green absolutely is on the side.
This story
Right.
happened in the reverse order it should have.
Yes.
Draymond became interested in the tournament.
Yeah.
Draymond tweeted about the tournament without really knowing a lot of what he needs to
Correct.
know.
So
now he knows what he needs to know because he heard Megan Rapinoe, he heard Chiney Ogwumike, he heard a lot of women athletes who have jumped in here and said, hey, know what to do, okay? So now he knows, and he gave a very nice, contrite press conference yesterday, and I believe him.
Momo, what needs to happen now with this, with Draymond? Do you reach out to Megan? How do you make this work?
You know what? I think everyone's okay. I think we all had the same reaction. If you notice the way the story played out, the first day he started tweeting about it, everybody kind of just was soft playing it. They didn't necessarily have this gut level emotional reaction. Then he kind of doubled down on it and doubled down again.
Right, he tweeted a
and
lot.
Then,
Yeah.
and it kept going. And we were like, hey, somebody should get in your ear and tell you what's up. Right. And now that they have, and I think there's some really good public relations people up there in Golden State that have worked in both the NBA and the WNBA. I want to give them credit. That have
Some of the best in the
talked to him
business.
about it. And he understands now. So it would have been better if all that would have happened beforehand. But the fact that we've spent, 3 weeks now talking about this?
Yeah. March 27th was a long time ago.
Yeah. It's probably a net positive. Because
Right.
a lot of people learned along with Draymond.
All right. Fair enough. Hopefully that is the case. But coming up next, what do the Nets plan to do as they ramp up Kevin Durant and his activity with the playoffs getting closer? We'll get to Malika with that. She'll fill us in. But first, it's time for our first distant replay from this date in 2002 featuring Kobe.
6:58. Gives the ball to a high post.